สวัสดีค่ะคุณผู้ชมคะต้อนรับเข้าสู่รายการคิดเป็นก้าวเป็นกับดร.จิระรายการที่ส่งเสริมให้สังคมไทยเป็นสังคมแห่งการเรียนรู้ค่ะคุณผู้ชมคะทุกวันนี้นะคะหลายประเทศในโลกต้องเผชิญกับวิกฤตอาหารโลกรวมถึงการขึ้นราคาสินค้าอุปโภคและบริโภคหลายรายการทำให้หลายประเทศต้องหาหนทางการแก้ไขเพื่อบรรเทาผลกระทบที่เกิดจากวิกฤตในขณะนี้นะคะและมีหลายเสียงอยากจะให้ประเทศไทยเป็นศูนย์กลางในการผลิตอาหารของโลกดังนั้นค่ะจุดนี้เองคงจะทำให้ประเทศไทยต้องหันกลับมามองกลวิธีในการใช้ทรัพยากรการผลิตอย่างมีคุณค่าและมองในระยะยาวให้เพิ่มมากขึ้นด้วยนะคะและในช่วงหน้านะคะคุณผู้ชมไปพบกับนักคิดนักปฏิบัติค่ะซึ่งเป็นหนึ่งในผู้แต่งหนังสือเรื่อง Executing Your Strategy มิสเตอร์วิลเลียมมาเล็ก Stanford University นะคะซึ่งจะมาแลกเปลี่ยนมุมมองความคิดเห็นกับศาสตราจารย์ดร.จิระ หงษดารมในช่วงหน้าคิดเพื่อก้าวค่ะช่วงคิดเพื่อก้าว
สวัสดีครับท่านผู้ชมที่เคารพครับขอต้อนรับเข้าสู่รายการคิดเป็นก้าวเป็นกับดร.จิระอีกครั้งหนึ่งครับท่านผู้ชมคงทราบดีนะครับว่าเราจะมีนักเขียนซึ่งทางสำนักพิมพ์แมคกรอฮิลส่งมาเป็นประจำนะฮะคราวนี้ก็เป็นอีกท่านหนึ่งซึ่งมาเป็นแขกของผมในวันนี้นะครับซึ่งเดี๋ยวผมจะขออนุญาตท่านแนะนำแล้วก็คุยกับท่านเป็นภาษาอังกฤษนะครับ Today I'm very honored to welcome Mr. William Malek who write the book on executive your strategy and William is here today. William, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to my program. Normally we have quite a few of the McGraw-Hill authors, so you most welcome.What is the purpose of your trip this time?
So I'm here for a couple things. One is tomorrow night I'm doing a presentation for the Project Management Institute, and I'll be talking about literally a case study that's in the book on the Singapore National Library, which is kind of a project that we learned a lot about what we actually have written about in the book. And then I'm also meeting with the Human Resources Society for some of the companies here in Thailand on Thursday. So it's kind of an exciting trip for me to come back and really learn more about the Thai people and the business environment here and so forth.
You know, when the author of newly published book come to Thailand, I'm very honored that McGraw-Hill always allow me to interview.Why another book on management?
Another book on management. That's a great question, given that every year there's thousands of books written on business management. But I think this one truly provides some unique thinking about ideas that already exist. A lot of times they say that sometimes breakthrough thought is about recombining known thoughts, known facts and ideas, and I think we've done this a little bit in this particular book, but what we've done is we've combined the challenge of organizations in terms of how do they get work done. The concept of executing strategy is somewhat new, but it's been around forever. And so we decided to take the theme of how to synthesize a lot of the management practices and in leadership and management systems to try to give a different view of this and to address the biggest challenge that many companies have is they just simply can't execute well. But if they can, the economic value extracted into the corporation is much different. So it's a little bit unique and different view on management science.
When I received this book and look at it carefully, at the beginning I thought it's very heavy book, but the more I read it, I come up with my notion that there are two kinds of important things, but you put them together. One is, of course, people talk about strategy a lot. Michael Porter, people like that, and then of course Jack Welch and Ram Charan talk about execution. Right? You combine the two together.
Right.
What experience you have in strategy, for example, that you bring into this book? How do you look at strategy?
Yeah. So for me, strategy is a word that has to be defined by the management and executive teams. One of the most fascinating opportunities I have, I teach at Stanford University in an executive education program, and I ask the executives one question when I start my class. I say, would you please take out a piece of paper and write down what your strategy is for your company? And I first ask them, is this a fair question? And they say yes. And they write it down, and then I have them read back or to each of the people that are in the class, and what they find is they have a very diverse understanding and the definition they use about strategy to begin with. Okay, so I usually say one of the first learnings we have to have about the word strategy is that it's used in different contexts in different ways, but yet it creates confusion. And if you, as an executive, are not clear about your strategy, what about all the workers in your organization? Do you think that they're going to be either more confused or less? So it's a very eye-opening.
So in your book, which we'll come into detail later, how did you define strategy in your book?
So we define strategy in our book is how do you get the work done? In other words, how do you get to the goal state? How do you get to the mission? How do you accomplish things? So if you think about how, you think about the work that has to be executed, the projects that must be defined in order for the strategy to become realized. The mission to become realized is through strategy. So strategy for us is all about how the work is planned and executed. And it's not...
And when you achieve, you do it better than other.
Yes, yeah.
And when you come to execution, did you learn anything about the past literature on execution? For example, the concept of Jack Welch and Mr. Ram Sharam about the way you get things done. Which aspect of execution you consider to be important?
So, if in the book there's a very seminal book, and there's some books there's a lot of chapters that are really good, but chapter 4 in the book is absolutely the critical part of the book. And chapter 4 talks about engagement. It's about how does the organization link the strategy to the portfolio of projects and resources. And this is not done well in many organizations, and this has been written about theoretically from an executive standpoint, but there's very little research and literature when you look at the concept of strategy execution in the business world. And this provides a great opportunity for new research and new orientation by just simply combining these two elements at an executive level. Because executives tend to say, well, we've got our strategy done. We've talked our plan out, and here's the plan. Mr. Manager, go execute. And that's a fallacy in of itself. The executive needs to understand what is he handing to the manager as far as what he's asking. And this is where we think one of the biggest failures is not having kind of the bilingual management to executive conversation about how will this be executed. Because what we say, a strategy that cannot be executed is not a strategy. It will not work. If you have not reconciled with your workers and had them buy into what needs to be done, it becomes very difficult to realize, right, the goals and the strategy.
You have written this with two more your colleagues. One is Professor Levitt from Stanford. Describe him. What kind of work style that he has with you?
So Dr. Levitt is a very, very unique individual. I love him dearly, and we've been working together now for about 7 years.
7 years.
And he's originally from South Africa.
Really?
Yes, that's where his home base was, and he came to the United States, and he got it into his area of construction and environmental engineering, became a professor at Stanford.
So both of you engineering background?
Both engineering backgrounds, right? And
including Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
All engineer turned management.
Yeah, yeah. We went from engineering to management, and Dr. Levitt is a very interesting, because his protege, he will tell you, is Dr. March at Stanford, who is a very famous organizational theorist about leadership and